So, are you calling people to order? Who's the MC?
Is it
okay?
Yeah. Because then I can still.
Oh yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Marcus, I think it's Riaz. The Wi-Fi password, is it for Trinity 1? Is it 11?
112244F.
Because if you put your egg in the pot,
Okay.
it's going to house. Yeah, guaranteed to leave it. And then you have a pot.
Try one of the Persians. Yep. Facing. They're on the table.
Oh, did you put them out?
They're
Make sure he gets a Persian and not something else.
My girlfriend tried to get me out, and she couldn't.
So that's
Okay, are we live? Okay. Okay, everybody, we're gonna start up again. And so we're just gonna do this sort of brief pitch session. So the purpose of this kind of little pitch session that we're going to do is for people who have an idea to just put it forward. And if you can come up with an idea of something that might appeal to someone else, because tomorrow what we want to do is form some groups, some doable projects. So we can pitch our ideas here for something that we might want to do, on the weekend with our groups. Or if it's something that's like a bigger project that you're working on, maybe there's some way you can break it down into an element so that you could, maybe you wanted to make like a little promo or something that would talk about your bigger project. So then you could use it for, say for example, you had a film idea and you wanted to raise money for it on GoFundMe or something like that. So usually you need to have something to show. So just a little short 2 minute, 1 minute, 30-second even, like commercial or something like that. Or if you have an idea for like a PSA, like an educational thing, I don't know, like maybe you'll have an idea of some kind of PSA that you'd like to use for your website anyway, but if we can all pitch our ideas, and it can be a crazy idea, and then we can all help to try to figure out, well, what would be doable, how could we do it, and who is interested in this team here to work on that project. So, because I think what would be ideal would be if we had 4 to 5 teams so by Saturday, they're going into production on their, whatever they're going to make. And then they can work a little bit more on the Sunday, and then we'll talk about sharing, and then we'll talk about a post-production plan if there's further work that needs to be done. Like say you spent a day and a half going out shooting something. But this is the initial, like let's just call it like spitballing ideas, and then we can, as we get to know each other, then we can say, oh yeah, Robin, I love that idea about, road trip or something. I don't know. So I want to help you make that, and then we're going to spend times like when we form the group, then starting the planning phase tomorrow, and then Friday will be the just more intensive. No, tomorrow will be like forming the groups, and then the Friday, your teams will be meeting in between like hands-on practical sessions to plan what you're going to do on Saturday. And and then tomorrow, our first session is going to be all about animation, various forms of animation. And then when we finish that session, then we're going to be forming our teams. And you can still, like in tomorrow when we first come, and afterwards you guys can all be, spitballing ideas and trying to see what you're interested in. Then there'll be a camera session. So then we all about, I just thought of the song, I don't know if anyone knows it who's old enough, but 50 Ways to Shoot Your Lover or whatever.
Leave Your Lover?
Leave Your Lover. I was thinking 50 Ways to Shoot Your
That's
Lover.
the American version.
Yeah, that's the American version.
We should pitch
Yeah.
so we can get to 8:30.
Okay. And anyway, so I just wanted to give people like a minute to collect their thoughts. Okay, so let's do it. Who has a pitch? Okay, Skylar?
I had the idea, really into the idea of harm reduction and stuff. I had the idea to kind of sneak how to use the, I can't remember what it's called. The,
Naloxone, the antidote.
Yeah, sneak the how to use that into a music video. Because I was thinking about it and I don't know how to use the stuff. I don't know what it looks like. I wouldn't know how to save someone who might definitely need that in a moment. So I kind of thought, and music videos are sexy, people like it. So you could sneak a lot of information into it. You could team up with, Base-A, for example, people like that to, get it done. And then you've got something promoting what I think is a really important message. And, yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Nathan?
I guess I have one would be a little bit more autobiographical. And why, I guess the bigger question would be, why do you continue to do things that physically hurt yourself? So, I've been involved in wrestling my whole life, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu I coach in my 40s now. I would like to talk to guys in their late 30s and their 50s. Look at their injuries. Everybody's got a bad ear, or a bad knee, torn biceps, whatever, but yet, why do you continue to do this activity despite the fact it's continuing to harm your body? And how do you deal with the aging and the fact that you've got all these kind of young guys coming up and you're still involved in this sport and you're carrying something every few months, but you're still doing it? Why? I don't know the answer.
That's
to
good, but that could be a gruesome story.
Well, I don't know the answer to it myself. Like,
Yeah.
why exactly? Because I guess I haven't introspected to that extent, but it'd be, I think I'd love to do that exploration
Yeah, that
for
sounds
myself
really
and people in my community.
There's also a universal quality to that because it's not just wrestling. I mean, every single one of us, every single day, does something that we know we shouldn't do, that we know is not good for us.
Absolutely.
Whether it's speeding in a car or I just ate a Persian. Right? And I'm like, this is not going to go over well for me. But I did it. And in fact, that's one of the 3 core diagnostic criteria of addiction is continued use despite known adverse consequences. So it's a very human thing. And that's one of the things about stories, like connecting with these fairly universal traits, wanting people to pay attention to us, wanting to be loved, wanting to be cared for, wanting to be understood, feeling like we need to do things that we know are not good for us.
My brother, he does jiu-jitsu, and he's developing some.
Who's that?
Brady.
Oh, I know Brady.
Yeah.
He's one of the young guys coming up. I was talking
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
and he's got really messed up ears right now because of all the rolling he does, and so he's got the bad cauliflower ear, but he's also got some crazy fear of needles, so he won't do anything to stop it, to try and reduce the effects. So he's just got this thing that he's pretty much totally comfortable with having for the rest of his life, but it just keeps getting worse and that kind of thing. So it's really great. I love his commitment. I think it's awesome, but it's specifically, kind of deforming him for life, and he's still so into it. It's fascinating to me.
Well, even smoking on a smaller extent is the same thing. People smoke, and yes, we know it's bad for us, but then they'll still smoke.
Okay. Sandy, do you have an idea?
I had a couple of ideas. Anyway, one has to do with poem about being in denial regarding addiction. And so that's, you know, the way people they always think that, you know, that they can handle it, but they can't, you know, sort of thing. And then the other one idea is about a poor little fisherman, and this came from a news story, that got talked into transporting cocaine in his boat, and for he needed to feed his wife and his children. They were all starving, and catching fish was getting harder and harder because, you know, the big boats with the technology and everything. And so he got talked into, going backwards, he got talked into transporting this cocaine, and from one place to the other, and to a boat, actually. And then he got stopped by the Coast Guard and got arrested and tortured and put in chains and handcuffs. And anyway, that's more or less the story. And anyway, that's a song, actually. I was just writing it down. It's a song which would lend to animation because it's a sea story. It'd be pretty hard to do it here, unless, well, maybe Lake Superior. I don't know. If you want to go out in a boat, it's over there in Lake Superior. But anyway, there's two different poems that I wrote regarding addiction, or the one cocaine. Actually, it was a lot of cocaine too that he was transporting. But $2,500 up front and $2,500 when he reached the other end, and he ends up losing his boat and end up in jail away from his family and everything else. So it's more or less the consequence of how they use people. You know, this poor guy was down in his luck and poor and trying to struggling to feed his family, and then he gets offered money, you know, to run this freight, which he wasn't aware of that it was cocaine. I mean, you can say either way, right? And as a result, the consequences is really dire. That's the one, and the other's being in denial about your addiction.
Good.
Ruth? Oh, okay, Lorraine?
Well, I had an idea there thinking about, you know, when I thought about coming to the workshop and the theme was harm reduction, and I thought, how can I come up with an idea with the theme? So I came up with the idea of thinking about sharps, like needles in inadvertent places where they really shouldn't be, and how needles are just dropped willy-nilly here and there. So it's a concern for us all. But just to talk about needles, nobody wants to talk about needles. So I thought, how can I incorporate animation and fictional creatures, characters into this? And so my idea is to have like little stuffed animals, or, you know, like they represent creatures out of the animal kingdom, but one of them getting a sharp, a needle. Like it can be a hairpin, I don't care, whatever, in their foot, and all the other creatures, oh, you poor thing, and trying to figure out how to get this needle out. And your audience then is, oh, they feel so bad for this poor little creature, got that big freaking needle in their foot. But then at the end, you fade to black and you cut to real life, and it's a child being faced with a needle in a playground, or going down a back lane, or a hiking trail, and they've got an open shoe and this needle is sticking out of their foot. So the same kind of fear and empathy for this creature. What kind of disease can you get? Does it hurt? What's going to happen? Then all of a sudden, shake you back into real life, and that's what this is the issue of the needles, and whether you're a user or not, it's not cool to leave needles laying around. You know, and just that kind of simple message, but get them feeling for this stuffed little creature, and oh, what a poor thing. And then snap, here's real life, you know, and I don't know. that's where the creative juices are kind
Yeah,
of flowing.
that's good.
And I think actually just going off of that might even be something that you can partner with like a local agency, such as like Superior Points, to maybe talk about like safe needle disposal and what to do if you see a needle on the ground. So, you know, that can be very like, could be very brief, but very like eye-catching, very captivating, really powerful message.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when you see one? Because I like live next to the street that's a little busy, and I guess people walk on our back lane all the time. So one day I was mowing the lawn, and I'm like, "The hell is that?" And it kind of freaked me out because it wasn't a needle. But then I didn't do nothing about it, and then the neighbor came out. We're like, "What do we do?"
The
We're both
protocol is to call Superior Sharps
Yeah,
and
and
they
that-
will send someone
Yeah,
out.
and then that's what he did, but they
Yeah.
never did come. So we're just like still looking at this needle every now and then. We just like feel bad because if someone does prick themselves, like, you know, they're responsible.
Get
So I
some
just don't wanna
tongs.
touch it.
Protocols would get tongs and put them into a detergent bottle, wrap it up with tape,
Probably barf.
biohazard.
No, you don't have to come into contact with it yourself, but use a tool to pick it up and put it in a
Guess I should,
container
yeah.
that can be
I don't
sealed.
know where it is now. You should check. Kinda stupid.
Okay. Okay, Alyssa, do you have an idea?
Not a very well thought
Our
out.
youngest member has a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's an idea of making a game which teaches you how to make a game, and also in that game you can make a game yourself. So it's kind of like a tutorial with the gaming software all in one game.
That's a good idea. I would play that game.
Okay,
I
Ruth?
have one. Okay, my idea is against prejudice, and fostering acceptance. And so, I write comedy. I mostly write comedy, and if it's not funny, I just make it funny. Like, for example, when we were talking, Arlene's idea, I had, instead of sharps, let's use porcupines, you know, and so anyways, that's me. But anyway, my idea is to show that all chicken eggs are different in some ways, but all chicken eggs are the same in other ways. And that said, don't ever put any chicken egg in your pocket. That's my idea. So, yeah.
That's
Dang,
good.
that's really good.
Yeah, that is good. Thank you.
Okay, my idea is about the interest that I have currently is that is the traditional education system worth it or not, you know. That's it stems from that, you know. So, and then there is going to be a background, you know, what is the traditional education system, why it was needed and when it was needed. It was basically, it was the industrial age, you know. The current age is not the industrial age because, you know, factories could actually run without any humans, you know. So there's a big talk about artificial intelligence and there's a big talk about other technologies actually eliminating all the jobs that are clerical in nature, which are repetitive, you know. And it is coming at such a fast pace, you know, that probably this is the biggest tsunami that mankind has ever encountered. But most of us, I believe, are not aware of it at the moment. But it is going to hit, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years, 20 years, because it's progress.
Or maybe in 6 months.
Not in 6 months.
It's scary, frightening. No.
I don't know, but there's a lot of talk about it, and if you see,
Yeah.
if you do the timeline of how the technology is changing, if you look at 10 years back or 15 years back, you know, there were no cell phones, nothing. But
Yeah.
these kids, when are born with technology, if you take technology out of it, you know, it happens sometimes when the internet is gone, you know, they have nothing to do. They say, what has happened? You know, their life has stopped, you know. And for them, the life has actually stopped.
And then the minute it comes back, there's that question, I thought you were
That's
dead.
And that's it. And it has an impact as well that, 4 people, a family, 2 husband and wife and 2 kids are talking, you know, in the family, and they will be sitting there for 4 hours without even talking to each other in the same room, you know. So you know, it's, but that's another question, but I'm not going to go into that. Is technology good or bad? Because it's just like money, good or bad, you know. But its impact and the impact that it can have on the livelihood of future generation, because everything in history ultimately boils down to economic destabilization, you know. So I think that could have a great impact if economic destabilization factors in the game changes on the lives of the people, because the skill set that is needed in the future is, I think, pretty different than what it is required right now. So it's just very broad. I have to narrow it down, but that's.
But the first phrase that you said, that was interesting. Is you know, do we need this traditional education system
current
anymore?
traditional.
The current education system.
Is it worth it?
Is it worth? Yeah.
Question answered.
I don't know. I did a little bit of research in alternative schools a little while back, and there was this one really interesting program, but there was only like 1 or 2 schools in Canada and then like maybe 5 in the US. And it was like, I wish I would remember what it was called, but basically it was teaching the children were treated as just anybody else. They weren't treated differently because of their age. And it was kind of interesting. So like you would go to school and like if this and it wasn't like a school, it was very like in a living room kind of thing. And then like if the kid said, well, I want to make money so I can buy my stuffed animal from the dollar store. And the teacher would say, well, how do you think you would make money? How does anybody make money? A business. What's your business idea? Here's a date and propose it. And he said, then he decided to make popsicles. So he brought up to the teacher, he'd show up for the meeting and present that he wanted to sell popsicles to the rest of the class. And the teacher approved his idea, and he was able to start producing popsicles and selling it. But it was kind of interesting. But as soon as like it kind of just showed that like it gave the child like deadlines and to reach its own goals. And like if this child was misbehaving and was not being good to the rest of the community and the rest of the children, it was brought to be like, well, like it's kind of like the prison system. I don't really even know how to explain it very properly, but it was a very interesting way, because kids that were interested with music would actually get to focus on music and actually get to expand. I can't remember what it's called, but there's only a few schools.
Yeah, it's a project-based learning approach, and it was initially first proposed by John Dewey.
Okay.
And he was a philosopher in US, you know, and an educationist, you know, who talked about personalized education as compared to traditional push education, you know. So I think he's coming back, and I think there are a few schools in US, like 5 or 7 like that. I'm not sure about Canada, but who teaches according to the philosophy of John Dewey, that personalized education, but that's another big obstacle, that how do you find what a kid is interested in? That's the real challenge, you know.
Yeah.
And
it's very similar to that Walford approach too, where they also kind of go where the child's interest lies.
I don't know. The research I did, it seemed very compelling, and personally, I think the public school system is completely.
We should go to Sue.
My question is, how do we boil that down to a project that we can do? Because these are all very big ideas, but what we want to do is we want to figure out how you can do a portion of that or illustrate it in some way.
So far, I need to narrow it down. If I have to do a project on that, I have to narrow it down.
But maybe just pull 1 or 2 things.
Yes,
and then show,
Riaz.
and then show,
I'm
for
gonna
instance, I
bring
was
my
at a restaurant
computer
a
over
couple
there.
weeks ago,
Yeah.
and all the people that were at the one table, they put their cell phones in the middle, and they actually had to converse. They weren't allowed to touch the cell phone, and if one of them did, they had to pay the bill for everybody. There was like 10 people. So, real motivation not to touch it, but show maybe just a point or 2 from your thing.
Absolutely.
And then show ways of, getting to just stop for a meal or whatever and not use your cell phones and whatever else.
I guess I need to think about it, narrow it down, focus it.
And then film people that have never done it before, and they're like, we just have to wait.
But if you wanted to illustrate an idea like that, couldn't you think of some way of demonstrating that some sort of aspect of traditional education was no longer useful?
In my mind's eye, I see reading, writing, arithmetic, and a blackboard, and it's so archaic. And then switch to smartboard and coding and the electronics that are used now in the school. I don't know,
I think
just
I'm,
the contrast of the
that's
two,
true.
right?
But I'm not interested to
Skype?
because I've done these experiments in actually changing the tools. I'm talking about changing the philosophy. So I think that's for me.
But I'm thinking of a project, that animation or something,
Yes.
that sort of illustrates that philosophy. But it has to, you have to be able to do it within a few minutes, because that's, we're not working over the next 3 years on projects. So they have to be small projects.
Yeah.
You know, we had a woman a few docks north ago who was from a northern community, and we were doing it in the fall, and the Canada geese were all over the place here. In her community, it was hunting time, or it was just about time to hunt the geese annually to stock up for the winter, basically. And here she was in a city where she's not supposed to kill any of these geese, and it's basically, there's enough geese at Lakehead University on the lawn to feed her entire community for 2 years,
You know
maybe.
what? Maybe I'm just gonna
But you
go
know, so
out
it was
for a second.
it was interesting because it was her, you know, culture, you know, and just that stark difference between
Just gonna start.
what her community has to
Because
do to
there's a
survive,
camera on it.
and it's sort of an abundance of riches, but it's not really an abundance of riches because you're not really supposed to kill them
Okay, yeah.
and
I
eat
can
them,
log
right?
in on
People
my Skype
complaining that they're
address.
pooping in the parks and they're a nuisance, but
Right,
you're not
but-
allowed to get that nuisance.
But you know,
out.
you've got sort of a, you know, it's not the same idea, but it was done in a few minutes, a short film. And she was able to explain that concept of, you know, the importance of those birds in her community, how they're valued differently, shall we say.
Do you have it downloaded or?
Have you seen The Wall by Pink Floyd?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it and I love it.
Another brick in the wall.
Another brick in the wall. The video is
The
done,
ideology of
you know,
obedience,
Yeah.
that's what's not necessary.
Huh?
That's what's not necessary, the ideology of obedience to, blind obedience
true.
to
That's
institutional
true.
protocol.
That's true.
I mean, that's the entire educational system,
Yeah,
is based on
absolutely.
just blind obedience.
Yeah, blind.
So I think, you know, dovetailing on Ron, picking that one element, the one part of that
True, very
particular philosophy, and illustrating it,
Yeah.
which Pink Floyd did
Is
with
it on
the
another-
animated
oh, there
brick
it
in
is.
the wall,
Absolutely,
but
absolutely.
there are other ways you could do it.
And then
Yeah,
I'll
think
just
maybe
log
you
in.
know that is the key. You know that.
Or it's easier if you just
rather
find
than
her.
just accepting traditions, norms, and you know status quo. You have to actually in the education
Yeah,
system
like you
have
can
to
look for her.
promote
I'll tell you
individuality,
her name.
you know uniqueness, and
Yeah.
you know and
Yeah, I'll
desire
just-
to do
her-
things
She's,
unconventionally, creativity, you know. And all
Mhm.
that. So I think these are the themes, you know, that I'm against them and I'm in favor of them, you know.
How
And
do you
that
find her address? It
if
was
I could
like
you know,
Lane.
animate or if I could storytell, you know, capturing these themes, you know, then I think the
Lane.
purpose is to
Do you
increase
remember her
awareness because I'm
email address?
personally
Her
passing
Skype
through that
address?
time because I'm raising my kids out of school, and I come from a you know developing country, a traditional background, you know, and I personally had to face a lot of criticism. But I think it's important because I can clearly see the writing on the wall, you know, that the future doesn't look, it's evolving, you know, and it's evolving at a very fast pace, you know, and you know, so it's important. It's about survival. It's about survival. So yeah, I think I'll just use these two things and maybe I can come up with something
Yeah.
short on that.
Well, it's like you're almost
Yeah.
doing it, because you brought,
Yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
kind of like
I just
everybody
found
looked at each
that
other,
the
we
other
walked in, we're all in a room, and then you bring your group back.
Yeah, it's
That
part
in
of his
itself
learning.
is
That part of
like-
his teaching,
yeah.
learning. So
Yeah, like just bringing a young person to, you know, what I thought was gonna be all of like, oh,
Okay, there-
oh, what
there you
she's
go.
beautiful to see, I don't care, because I would do the same thing.
And that's what she's talking about, you know, people of all ages learning
What's
together
this?
because
here.
learning does not,
Oh, okay,
is
sure.
not classified by age, you know.
Exactly, and building relationships, so you're building a good relationship with your young son there by bringing him to this.
That's, so, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to, I gotta, call while Sue look out.
Yeah, okay, but I have to change a few things.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Um, Here's blank videos.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, you're on the big screen. We're gonna make you even bigger.
Here's video.
Oh. Not just me. Hi.
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 Okay,
Let's make it big.
so we'll make you, yeah, we're gonna make you guys bigger. There you are. Of course, there's a delay.
Wait for it, wait for it.
No, oh yeah, there's no delay in Skype, but on the, oh yeah, okay.
You're good.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're all good. So, anyway, so why don't you pitch us your ideas? Or if you have comments on other people too.
So the mention of the Chupa Man, that kind of got me thinking about just like people in Silicout in the community. And so like 5,000 people live in Silicout. We have a pretty small library, but it's very well used. So we were talking a little while ago, and in the month of March, we had over 1,000 Wi-Fi sign-ins, which is a lot for our community. So it kind of got me thinking about the people who come to the library, and then we started talking about libraries as like sanctuaries. So, Josh.
Yeah, I was telling Lane that, well, I used to live in the States, and down in the South, like Birmingham, Alabama, and Meridian, Mississippi, and so on and so forth. And I grew up in and out of homeless shelters and women's shelters with my mom and my younger brother. And a lot of times at these shelters, you would have to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. And we weren't allowed to go back to the shelter till about 6 in the evening. And in the summertime, when we weren't in school, like those days are pretty long. And if you've ever been to the South, it's pretty humid, pretty hot and humid. So our sanctuary was always the library. And I was kind of commenting there that the library was always where a lot of people, particularly those that were on the streets, that was where they went. It's where they sought refuge from the elements, and just to kill their days. You know, there was somewhere to go. And I did a lot of reading in that in my time at the library back then. So I was just what I managed to come up with.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we spent our time talking about. All right.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Okay, so does anybody have feedback? Yeah, Nathan?
I
and
just think that's so
April?
awesome because, you know, I've recently started to spend more time at the library.
Sorry, we just have to switch to our other sound. I have to mute the Skype and go
Oh,
back
okay,
to the
okay,
screen.
sure.
Sorry.
Or he can
Oh.
come here.
Or, yeah, he'll just come up to your Skype. Oh,
Yeah, because the other one would become very.
yeah.
Where
Yeah.
do you want to go?
Just,
In the Skype chair right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, no, tell them that to mute their live stream.
yeah, so mute your live stream again.
That's a feedback. It's just, you know.
Yeah, mute your live stream.
They don't hear it.
Yeah, so mute your live stream.
Okay, yeah. Good thing that you mute the live stream.
Listen to repeat it a couple times.
Mute your live stream.
This is amazing.
Where's that one?
Yay, okay.
Okay, now can you hear us?
Yeah, there you can see Nathan. Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to say I think that's a really good idea because I think about that a lot. Because recently I've been going to the public library a lot more, getting books out of the library, making use of that. And when I lived in Winnipeg, I mean Winnipeg's cold, and I used to spend a lot of the time downtown at the Millennium Library. And I've noticed that Say it again, sorry?
Sorry. I says I've spent a lot of time there as well.
You know the place, yeah. And I think that it's used a lot for that. I see that here, and I saw that at the Millennium Library. And just the way that you phrased it, as a library is a refuge, a place where you can go, whether it's really hot in Birmingham, Alabama, or really, really cold in Winnipeg. That's something that seems to traverse geography. So I think that'd be a really good localized project, and maybe even a bigger project of libraries of, was this Andrew Carnegie's vision? Well, I don't know, but this is what libraries have become in the 21st century. Not everybody's on the books. I see a lot of people using their computers there all the time, and or using, that's the only way they can access the internet because they don't have money.
There's this argument about that, digital age, we don't need libraries.
Right.
Everything is just.
Sorry.
But this is an argument for the
Yeah.
physical existence of libraries.
It's like people don't think about these other kind of uses for the libraries. It's not just books, but it's like for some people it's a refuge.
Absolutely, yeah. So I just think that's an amazing idea.
So in April, you had.
I heard a quote a little while ago, and it said the libraries are one of the last vestiges of our society that anyone can go in and not have to pay anything. And I thought that was kind of cool and special, and that's kind of, I think, why libraries are so important.
Yeah, I was kind of laughing at that whole needle thing that they were talking about.
Yeah.
Because they got the needles in there that are.
Oh yeah, we have sharp deposits in our bathrooms here too, and yeah.
Yeah.
Safe place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have the same experience. So, hi, I'm April. Nice to meet you. I'm Joe Boy. I just want to say too, I also have that experience when I was younger and in high school, and I never really got along with my teachers. It's amazing. I'm doing my master's now, but I hated school. I hated the teachers. I don't know how many fights I almost got with teachers because I was picked on by my brothers and sisters. So it was education for me has been a very hard road to get where I am, but I've gotten there. It's been very painful too. I have a lot of painful childhood memories from teachers and being mean to me, and but I just kept on going for my future and for my children's future. So I just want to say too, when I skipped school in high school and grade school, I went to the library. I'd go to the mall where all the other kids skip, and nobody would be in the library except me, and I'm thinking, why isn't anybody up here? It's so beautiful, it's quiet, you can read whatever you want. And the funny thing is, even through high school, when I'd skip class, I would go in the library, and that's how I learned about the oceans and got scared of sharks and go home talking about these weird things. My mom would be like, where did you learn all this stuff? I'm like, at school. So I want to say that as I go through my education, we learn within our communities, we don't have libraries. So it's kind of there's a trauma there too, with the residential schools and with our learning ways, is that we don't have a lot of libraries. Maybe we have small libraries. But to me, when I go to a library now, it's almost like a safe place. So it makes me think the way that our homeless people suffer. They don't have access to safe places for training. They don't feel safe. They don't feel confident even to get there. So, thinking about the ways of the future and learning and all that kind of stuff, there's other ways we need to think too in terms of building information through media, right? And that could be changing the way structures are. We have to break down these structures that are built fundamentally by westernized people, right? And that's where it came from, paternalized systems and all these different kinds of systems where there's a hierarchy. And if we create that equilibrium for everybody, then it gives everybody a chance. So building libraries, say, next to employment training offices, side by side, because that's where people go look for a job, that's where they go to use a computer. But then they get inspired to learn, because that's where I was inspired to learn. So, miigwech for that. Loved it. Thanks.
Okay.
I just want to add one small thing to that, which is that I love your idea, and I think it would be great to have kind of a futuristic ending whereby you would say, this is how it could be. And I wanted to say that when I went to Ann Arbor, to the public library in Michigan, it was a place where you could not only take out books and movies and use the computer, but you could also take out camping gear or a chainsaw or whatever it is that you needed. And so they expand, and then there were directions and education on how to use the camping gear or whatever it was that you were taking out of the library. So it's just another idea I'm adding into your great idea.
I need to go to that library.
I love that idea. That is
We
so
have that
cool.
here now with garden tools in the library that you
The
can
film should be
get
about Jack,
tools.
his library.
So hi, just a few points that I also,
Okay, yeah.
so just a few points that I had when just thinking about libraries was when I was from the age of 7 on up, I loved books, but I actually, instead of going for lunch, which was at the time we'd still walk home for lunch, but instead I would help out the librarian, and also at recess times, instead of playing with the other girls and whatever else outside, I would usually go to the library and I had go-to books, certain ones that I would just borrow over and over and over again because I loved them so much. The other thing is that when she mentioned about libraries having more than just having the fishing tackle and everything else, just a couple of weeks ago, I was reading online and they have craft libraries where they have all the books on different kind of crafts and how to do them. And the librarians are not only librarians, but they can actually show you and teach you how to do the crafts. And there was rooms available so that you could do a craft as a group or a single. And this included everything from sewing to quilting to whatever else. And you could learn it right there, but you had the books to that you could also borrow and do it on your own. And I thought that was
very
really
cool.
interesting.
In this digital world that this is, coming back.
Well, I know is it the Waverly Library
Yeah.
on Algoma?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can rent or you can borrow gardening equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arlene
so
just
the-
said that.
And they
Yeah.
have a really cute little it's like a shed built into the library. Like they have a garden shed. It's so great.
And also, you can learn about filmmaking at the library because that's where they've been in Sioux Lookout, but also at the Waverly Library, which is across the street from where we are, Trinity Hall. And that's where last year we had all our master classes and sessions at the library. And it was really good. It was a good partnership, and we've done a few things with them. So, yeah. Okay, where everybody seems to be really excited about this idea. so that's very cool. Okay, so is there anyone else who hasn't,
Can I just, we do have to move on, but can I just suggest, or what if there were people here that were interested in a library idea, and people in Sioux Lookout, would it be possible to co-produce a film,
that could be cool.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be easy enough to look at the way it's used in Sioux Lookout and look at the way the library is used here, if anybody was interested.
Yeah.
And collaborate somehow in doing something for this project.
Yeah.
But that's just an idea.
Yeah, and thinking about medium too, but also mode of expression. Because if the story is about like libraries being one of the last vestiges of kind of uncharged, largely untaxed civic association, then how do you tell that story? And one way to tell the story is through hyperbole. Like you could run a social experiment where you turn your library into a Starbucks. Everybody's uniforms, everybody's monitored very closely. You can't go to the bathroom freely. You have to have a key. You need to shh, quiet. Yeah. So I mean, there are things that in filming that, like that's an extreme example of like using kind of a social experiment to make a point about what libraries actually offer us that we take for granted. But you can imagine an animation, following somebody who's seeing it, viewing it, feeling it, experiencing it as a sanctuary. So there are all these different modes of expression. The story ends up kind of being the same one, but how you tell the story is going to be very different, which may change the story itself. But I think it's a beautiful one.
And Jack has been to every library between here and Albuquerque,
and nobody knows the libraries better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could be a game too. I mean, it could be an interesting video game, like a video game about exploring a library.
Somebody walks into the library. And
The past, present, and future of the library all in one game.
And then finding a book.
Right.
Yeah.
Or a shovel.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah. Or some gardening tools. Yeah.
Well, then it's the different avatars that
Oh,
come
I
to
thought that, eh?
the library.
Okay, so now, is there anybody else who hasn't been able to, who hasn't, oh yeah, okay.
I think comparatively it's a very small idea, but it's just more of a concept, I guess. But I guess it's the difference and I guess maybe opposition sometimes between passion and grit. What drives a person to do what they have to do versus what drives a person to do what they love to do in life. And then just actually through conversations and talking to you guys about Alyssa's animation, I was thinking like a spy versus spy type thing where, you know, they're constantly fighting with each other every step of the way, or like that new movie Tag that just came out where, you know, sort of you're in and we're in it. So this sort of this constant battle between the two, and then also how they work together to bring you to a common goal type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you guys should go back on the stream, okay? And then just message us if you want to talk. Okay? Right on. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just.
I think it's long enough.
There.
We've
Okay.
just given you extra.
Good.
Yeah, but I think it.
Okay, that might help.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's switch back then. I mean, you can keep you can minimize their
Okay.
thing, their Skype, so. Okay. Oh, are we having a battery thing? Okay. So, okay, so I think we've had some really great ideas, and
Did we hear from everyone or not really?
I think, so did you have?
I don't have anything particular. I was interested in education, but I was trying to think of something simple as well, but.
There's plenty of time.
Yeah, we've got, this is just the first go at it, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's getting, you know, inspired by each other's ideas, and, yeah, and Delbor, I don't know if you have,
I'm just here to observe.
you're just observing, being a sociologist.
Yes, it's a sociological experiment.
Yeah, I know. But I was just thinking of something really simple that we've lived in the house that we're in for 15 years, and every year my husband says, that tree is so ugly, I want to cut it down. And I said, it's so beautiful when it flowers.
Right.
But it doesn't last very long. It's a cherry blossom tree. And then when you look at the history of the cherry blossom and what it stands for, it stands to remind us that life can be beautiful, but that beauty can be short-lived, and that we should appreciate the good moments, and it's supposed to build like appreciation basically for life. And it would be nice to do something simple just to highlight that.
That sounds like a great animation.
Yeah,
Very, like, I
Because I have
can
a picture of it
visualize
when it
it
was
so
young.
easily.
When it was younger, and now it's a little bit older, so it
Right.
doesn't flower quite in the same way, and how we don't, as a society, appreciate aging, and we don't respect elders and the wisdom that you can get from them. So there's a few little stories in that thing.
Yeah.
We often don't have much patience for people who are not flowering for our benefit.
Exactly.
That's, yeah, that's it.
And then we missing
Okay.
someone. Keegan, did you?
Yeah, Keegan, what are you working on? You have always lots of ideas.
I do, but they never get produced. But
There's always a first time.
No, no.
At this moment, that I'm starting to write a short script. It's a comedy of a vignette of based on local TV shows with very different characters, but one focuses on a woman who teaches arts and crafts. And I got the inspiration from from watching YouTube videos. So it's because I think with YouTube, like you learn so much, like from the retro shows and from old videos and just that too, TED Talks, but just I love the retro feeling, so I like to make a sort of a period piece. So right now I'm just in the process of writing a script. So once the script's done, hopefully someday it would be used for, hopefully I could get some funding for it and hire some crew members, and then but it's just about making a story and just trying to figure out the dialogue, and plus my grammar is definitely not the best, so I'm just writing. I have these ideas for the vignettes, but I just gotta figure out what they're gonna say and what they're gonna do. And
Dialogue's hard.
yes, dialogue is difficult, but with Docs North, like I like to, I'm here to help out with like with with the crews and also the directors, because I noticed that there's so many great ideas that I like to help out with, like just to work on the production part too as well.
And you're an animator and an editor and a photographer and
cameraman.
Yeah.
Aggressively underselling
I
stuff.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Adrian, you have a million ideas.
1,000,002.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any ideas for the short term for this yet.
You can help me with mine.
Do you have an idea?
I do have an idea. Okay, so I'll tell it now.
Okay.
I'll tell it because I've noticed it. I want to just do kind of like a very short, maybe I won't be able to finish it, but maybe like this project will get me to start it and get most of it done. But like a music video idea for your band where it's there's this abandoned house and there's this hole in the ground. We got a really good picture of the guys standing over this hole, and I want to take that and go back to that space and film like a short part of it, so that you see these people looking in the hole and then animate something coming out of it, and their logo pops out of animation, and these creatures that I've designed like from high school basically, I can reanimate and just do it as like a short, kind of like stop motion kind of video that I feel like would be fun to do.
All right.
That's my idea. It doesn't really have a story to it, unfortunately, but my creatures are kind of disturbing.
I feel like anytime humans are standing over a hole and something comes out of it,
Yeah.
that is the story.
Yeah.
The story is inherent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, let's, I was gonna say let's have a break, but, I think we should just, play the film and then carry on our discussion from there. And, one of the things that I wanna talk about, well, first we'll get you to, introduce the film. Oh, and we need to have a quick break because you have to go up, Riaz, because we gotta do it with sound.
I need a break. It's not a comedy.
Yeah, it's not a comedy, so, but I just don't want everyone to run away, and so let's have a 5-minute like bathroom break or talk to somebody about their ideas. We'll get set up, and then you're gonna introduce it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we watch it, and then we'll have like a whole discussion.
So are we streaming here or?
So, no, you know what I'm gonna do is we'll send the link to.
I sent it to her
Oh, you
already.
sent it,
Yeah.
okay, great.